My name is Ilene.
Hi, and I'm Brock, and we're from digitaldrifters.net.
And you're listening to Travel Feels Life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Travel Fuels Life, the show where we share stories, tips, and inspiration to help you live a travel lifestyle. I'm your host, Drew Hanisch, and what's it like living those first few months with that decision that you made to sell everything, buy a plane ticket, and start a life as a digital nomad? Well, my guests today are in that very position right now, and they've been kind enough to share some of their experiences with us. Things like the challenges of finding Wi-Fi, dealing with visas, keeping up with your business, and the day-to-day experiences of living in Costa Rica as your first adventure. So from my home here in Greenville, South Carolina, it's time to jump on the World Wide Web and head south of the border to Costa Rica with Ilene Valencia and Brock Bover of digitaldrifters.net. We're going to see what it's like getting started on a nomadic lifestyle. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Hey Drew, thanks a lot for having us.
So Costa Rica, that is an interesting place to get started. How long you guys been down there?
We arrived the day after Christmas. We actually had a Christmas Day red-eye from LA into San Jose. So we've been here for about 5 or 6 weeks now.
Okay. All right. And have you spent a lot of time exploring, or have you kind of been just in your own little area?
Yeah, we originally thought that we were kind of going to stay like a month somewhere and then go to a different place and stay another month. But there's just so much to see in this country that it's hard to stay in one place for more than 5 to 7 days. Mm-hmm. So we've probably been hopping around on average every 3 to 4 days. We did stay in one town for 2 weeks, and that's because Ilene was...
I was a volunteer nurse at one of the clinics there, so we kind of had to be tied down. But other than that, we've just been bouncing around. So we finally made it to the most southern point that you can in Costa Rica. So Panama is our neighbor right now.
So what have you loved so far about Costa Rica?
I think the thing that I love the most is just the culture of it and the people here. And they just completely are just welcome you and just are so loving and caring and really do care about you. It's so weird. Just Airbnb, the hosts that we've had just go above and beyond to make sure that you're enjoying their country, and it's amazing to be included.
So when you say hi to someone, or when you say bye to someone, or you ask someone a question, how are they always respond with pura vida, which means pure life, basically. So it's like, hey, how's it going? Pura vida. See you later.
Yeah.
Pura vida.
If you don't even know what they're asking you in Spanish, all you have to say is pura vida, and they just know.
Oh, good. I will make a note of that. I wonder if this works in Mexico too. I'm going to Mexico next week, so
they'll probably look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah, they might. So, anything totally unexpected in your journey so far? Something that you just you're like, wow, I didn't really see this coming.
I think one of the things is that we had taken like a 2-hour bus ride, and that's how we've been getting around so often is through the bus system, because it's so inexpensive. And we finally got to the Airbnb. Well, we had to carry our luggage down, and it was probably about a 30-minute walk, and I had the wheel luggage. And I had to wheel it, and you hit every single rock on the way. And then we got there, and we were just drenched in sweat. I mean, at this point, you just have to be okay with being sweaty 24/7. But we finally got there, and I was like, oh my God, yes, maybe AC, no electricity, no plugs, no outlets or anything, no light. It was unbelievable. It was different, but you kind of learn to love it. And we kind of expected to be off the grid, but that was the most off the grid that we've been besides for camping.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most unexpected part was like the journey and the difficulties of getting to those places.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's in hindsight, it makes sense, but, you know, traveling in a lot of places around the world, like those luxuries just aren't here like they are in other parts of the world.
So what brought you to the idea of just giving up all the comforts of home and slimming down to the bare essentials and hitting the road like this?
I think it was twofold. It was, we'd reached a point where we were just kind of over the expected lifestyle in the US.
Mm-hmm.
You know, go to work, come back, relax for an hour, and then you have like all of your chores and all of that. And then all of the payments, rent, car payments, student loans.
Just things you kind of get. I mean, these are adult things. These are things that you have to do. And we just kind of looked at each other. We're like, but why do we have to do it? And I think from there, we kind of just decided. So in September in 2017, that was when we had to decide, are we staying, are we leaving? And when we were in Phoenix, we needed to renew our lease. And we just decided, nope, let's not renew anything. We're about to take a trip to Spain, and we just didn't, we just had no plan from that point. We sold our furniture, we sold our cars, we got rid of, I'm going to say like 90% of our clothes. We just have like everything that we have here with us is basically everything that we own.
And then I also think that for me, it was like I was over being a consumer in society and like, you know, using so many things and, you know, single-use plastics and all that kind of stuff that gets lumped together and, you know, the normal lifestyle in the US. And I think transitioning to a travel lifestyle was really appealing for us because it cut down on like a ton of those things that we were concerned about as far as like impacting the environment.
So when you're traveling, are you taking like water bottles with you and, you know, that you can reuse? Or like, this is a good example. I'm going down to Mexico and I'm thinking, well, I could take a water bottle with me, but the first thing they tell me is that you shouldn't drink the water. So how do you work that logistic out?
Luckily, like a lot of places in Costa Rica have good tap water. Mm-hmm. So we've been refilling our,
like Nalgene, or not Nalgene, the hydro flask.
Yeah, we have a couple of hydro flasks, and we basically have those out ready to use at any point. And we just basically fill up wherever we can. Obviously, like in places like Mexico, it's a little harder to do that from like a tap, but over here they have like really big 6-liter gallon jugs of water. Mm-hmm. So in certain like very rural areas, we'll buy those and then, you know, fill up our bottles with that. And in a way that cuts down our use of like a bunch of different plastic bottles.
So how do you handle the rest of travel in terms of, because of course, the intention is to stop creating such a large carbon footprint, but then when you're traveling around, how do you minimize, for instance, if you hop on a jet? You know, jets are probably one of the worst polluters. Does it change your travel style in terms of what transportation you take or how long you stay in places? How does that all work out?
I mean, when it comes to going from continent to continent or to an island or whatever, it's almost impossible to get around flying. But once we're in a country for a while, kind of like Costa Rica, we've made it a point to use buses as much as we can. And compared to, you know, using 2 cars in the US every single day, our footprint is way smaller, and we're not traveling every day, you know, so we're using a bus maybe every 3, 4, 5 days. And then when we're in a certain place, we're usually walking around.
Yeah, that's usually how we kind of get around town, or we rent bikes.
Yeah, definitely working you're getting your exercise in at the same time.
Yeah.
And we don't need a gym membership either.
Yeah, there you go. So you mentioned Spain. So was Spain the first place that you went?
No, I mean, we had done some traveling before. So when I was in nursing school, between every block, I would have a 10-day break. And that's kind of when I fell in love with traveling, is Brock, was able to take me on some of these trips. And I'd never traveled before. I think I'd gone to Rome and Poland before with my dad. But other than that, I'd not been anywhere international really. And that's kind of where he opened my eyes to traveling. And Spain just happened to be, we found a flight for $300 round trip, and we're like, we're doing it. So
well, Spain was the first step in like transitioning into this nomad lifestyle, because that's when we moved out of our 2-bedroom townhouse, sold everything, and that's basically when we had no attachments anymore.
Yeah. So you, it sounded like you sort of moved around a little bit before then. You mentioned Phoenix, and you mentioned in the email to me living in Hawaii. Was that all prior to your getting out there and starting to become a little bit more nomadic?
So, okay, so how it went. So we didn't renew our lease in that September, and we went to Spain. And at that point, I had started looking into travel nursing. Mm-hmm. So with travel nursing, you basically just go to whatever hospital around the country that they need you in. So right after Spain, we went to Houston. That was my first assignment. And it was really rough. It was hard. And I told my recruiter, I'm not going to go anywhere unless you get me Hawaii. And she did. So nice. I said, I'm not going to work somewhere, that I don't really feel passionate about. And of course, who doesn't feel passionate about Maui? So that's where we went. And with contracts, you only get a 3-month contract. So I renewed until I couldn't anymore. So after Hawaii, we were like, all right, next on our list is Costa Rica.
So Maui was your detachment, but you went there with a job already.
Yeah. We had visited Maui before, and that was that's how I knew I wanted to live in Maui. It was the first place that I've left that I cried. And I told Brock, like, I can't leave here. I said, we are going to move here. And I kept saying, we're going to move here. And I kind of believed it, but then I made it, like I needed to make it happen. And then once we got there, it was just, we knew that this was one of the best decisions that we'd made.
I feel like it was a good step into our current lifestyle, because it was, basically the farthest place you could get away from mainland US. It's the US, but it's not really in a lot of different ways. It's very similar to Costa Rica. The cultures are very different, but as far as like the mentality and way of life, it's very similar. And then I had always dreamed about spending, several months in Costa Rica. So that was just kind of like, we were able to, we had the funds and everything after Maui. So we just decided to, take the plunge.
So now, Brock, you actually have your own business. Is that correct?
Yeah, I started a mapping business in Phoenix about 6 years ago. So I've been able to work remotely for quite a while now. Mm-hmm. But it's recently got to the point where I can be very nomadic in a way, as long as I have a Wi-Fi connection, basically. Okay.
Well, and so with the travel nursing and with you having your own income stream coming in, do you feel like the security level is a lot higher for you guys because you do have these money generators that are already out there that kind of free you up to allow you to go?
I think that it's a few different things. It's definitely like I'm able to work and generate some type of income while we're traveling. But, Ilene was going to nursing school, and then she started her first job in Phoenix. And then after that is when, we had our Spain trip, and then we went to Maui. And at that point, it's kind of like her career was finally established, and she kind of had more direction in what she wanted to do. Would you say the same?
Yeah, I agree.
And then it was just at that point where everything just kind of aligned. And yeah, we just went for it.
This is interesting for me because I own my own business. I'm an entrepreneur and starting a second business now with the podcast. And when I think about the ability to be able to disconnect and go to another country, I think about the logistics not being that hard in terms of me getting to that other country. But then it's all that other stuff of dealing with how you're paying your taxes on your business and where your business is registered and making sure you're keeping up your citizenship. I mean, how do you deal with all of those things?
In a way, I think it's similar to how I was handling it in Maui. Like technically my business is still in Arizona, paying taxes in Arizona, all of that. It's just, being able to be connected and handling all of the, the minor issues with the business is the biggest hurdle, I guess.
Yeah. So do you have emergencies that come up? Like, for instance, we were talking about scheduling this interview and the question of Wi-Fi came up and whether you'd have Wi-Fi or not. And then you had the situation where you didn't have Wi-Fi and you were totally disconnected. I mean, is your business able to sustain something like that where you may have to go for 5 days without an internet connection?
Yeah, I mean, so we've been trying to plan where we're like in off-grid areas, kind of like over weekends, and then in more not so urban but less rural areas during the week. And I pretty much just need to work 3 or 4 days a week to keep up. But the beauty of it is like I don't have to be around like 8 to 5 during the day. I'll like have a workload and then I'll do it maybe in the morning and then work on it again in the evening. And as long as I'm like continually pushing out products throughout the week, I'm able to sustain the business.
And Ilene, how does that work for you in terms of being a nurse? I mean, do you find that you are tied to a particular spot, maybe that your job keeps you locked into a certain area for a certain amount of time to fulfill an obligation, or how does that work for you?
So with travel nursing, so with nursing in general, so I can't technically work as a nurse here in Costa Rica because our licensing is different. So that's why I volunteered at one of the clinics for a couple of weeks. So right now I'm not working. I'm finishing my degree online. So I guess my job right now is just doing homework. And
back to a full-time student.
Yeah, so back to a full-time student. Yeah, so I kind of coordinate with him and let him know, like, I have this project due, I need to get it done, and we need to have a good Wi-Fi connection. Like one day we were in Drake's Bay and our connection did not work. So Brock needed to upload a map and then I needed to upload my assignment or else I was going to fail the class. And we were fighting whose project's more important.
What's the priority?
Oh my.
Is it income or is it education?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I ran to a cafe and it was just obstacle after obstacle. I ended up calling my sister in Texas and I just, look, Megan, you need to focus. I need you to upload this to YouTube. Like it was like nothing was working. And finally I started at 8 a.m. and I finally got everything submitted by 7 p.m. It was a long day, but that's kind of what our biggest issue is just Wi-Fi. And you don't even think about that because, Wi-Fi is so available anywhere you go in the state. So coming here, you just kind of... You come to expect these rough patches like the story she just told.
Yeah, I guess what I sometimes will fall back on is having my cell phone and having a mobile hotspot on my phone, but that's not always reliable either, is it?
Yeah, well, luckily we have T-Mobile, and with our plan, we're able to have free international data. So many of the places we've been, we either get like 3 or 4G, which the tethering's not amazing, but at least we're able to, send emails and stay a little bit connected wherever we go.
Yeah. So do you both speak fluent Spanish?
It's so funny because I'm Mexican and I'm very tan because I lived in Maui and now I'm in Costa Rica, so I'm in the sun all the time. So every time they have a question, they refer it to me, and I just like, and I turn to Brock and I look at him and he answers and he talks white. It's just so funny.
Well, I actually did a study abroad in Costa Rica back in 2008, just for a month, but it was like kind of like the end of my Spanish studies in college to get my credit. So I had a pretty solid base in understanding Spanish and speaking Spanish 10 years ago, but then, living in the US, you just kind of lose it because you never speak it. But recently we've been traveling to a lot of countries that speak Spanish, so we've been able to practice quite a bit the last couple of years.
And I've been doing medical Spanish, which kind of helped in the hospital, but if I just ask a random person for a urine sample, it's just not gonna work the same way.
Yeah.
Well, and then you learn that Google Translate is like a part of you.
Yeah.
I could see that. Constantly pulling the phone out and going, say that again. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Or just to learn new words. You hear someone say something and you have no idea what it is, and then later you just look it up on Google Translate and you're like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah, and see, it's funny for me because I took French all my life. I've been taking French, and then I took Spanish in college. And besides just messing up my French, the hard part about Spanish for me was that all the words seemed to run together, so I never could tell when one word was ending and the next one was starting. So that can be a challenge too.
Yeah, for us, when someone in Costa Rica speaks like moderate to slow, we generally have really good conversations with them just because we're able to catch all of the words easier. But then when people speak very, very fast, it's like a completely different ballgame.
Okay, so I use this phrase a lot when I go to Quebec or to France. I say, parlez lentement, s'il vous plaît, which means speak slowly, please. So how do you say it in Spanish?
Habla muy... How do you say slow?
Despacio.
Por favor.
Por favor.
Por favor. Which isn't going to work really well for me because even if they speak slowly, I'm still going to be going, what are you saying?
I know. Yeah.
So there was never really a fear factor for you guys in doing this kind of travel then. I mean, it just kind of feels natural to you?
I think I'm the one that kind of has the most fear about it. I kind of look to Brock for, confidence. I sometimes feel like I doubt myself and kind of doubt, is this really what we should be doing? A lot of people aren't doing it. We have not really anybody to kind of ask for advice. And Brock's like, no, we can do this. And he's actually really good at, talking it up and, just being really good encouragement. And then he said, as soon as we get to Costa, because I kind of was nervous about coming to Costa Rica. I'd been here a couple of times. I loved it, but moving here is kind of a different thing. And I've expressed my concerns to him and said, I'm a little nervous, I'm going to leave my family again. And he's just like, once you get there, you're going to forget all of these feelings. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Generally that's what happens when you're traveling internationally is you kind of have these unrealistic doubts. And then once you get there, you completely forget that was even a problem in the first place.
It's funny because when I was in Hawaii and this thought comes across my mind every once in a while, and I think this is just our programming as traditional Americans, that I was thinking, should I be here? I mean, I should probably be home behind a desk, working and doing stuff there. Yeah. Am I doing something wrong? I mean, it really does feel awkward and kind of like you're breaking the rules.
Yeah. It's kind of like you feel a little guilty at some points too. I don't know why, but I feel like, I feel like that now, but then I kind of have to say to myself, we worked really hard to get here. And, Brock, just 1 year, like when we just started dating, I remember he was so miserable and he said, I'm going to make my own business. And I said, okay, yeah, do it. I support you. And he worked his butt off to be able to do what he's doing now. And, he really earned it. And I worked so hard to be a nurse, and, I saved up enough money to, with a bad assignment, and I was able to accumulate a little bit of money to be able to do this. And I think I feel like a lot of people would love to be doing what we're doing, and I wish they could, and I want everyone to experience the world. But I feel like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah,
I'd second that.
Yeah, just breaking that paradigm, I guess, and the younger generations seem to be doing it. The older generations, I think, look at it like what's going on. But I had that same thing with my dad when I was switching jobs all the time. I was a serial job jumper. I would go 6 months and work this career and 6 months and work that career, and they were completely different things, right? And he had spent his whole life working for the police force, and he said, "Why do you keep changing jobs all the time?" But now that's sort of a normal thing. We see that everywhere. So I think it's just a matter of kind of breaking down the barrier. And you guys are, blazing a trail that other people, I'm sure, would like to learn from. Yeah,
my dad is kind of the same way. He's worked at the same company for, I think he's pushing 40 years at the same company in Michigan. And I was also a serial job candidate, and then I started my own business. So I'm just, I've kind of completely deviated from what I was used to in my family, what my family did with their careers.
It's interesting because I think we share that in terms of, I think what happens is, when you're working for other people, you're always working under their rules. But once you actually can form your own company and do things the way that you feel like they need to be done, it's a lot more easy to be loyal to that concept than it is to.
Yeah, it's an entirely new world. You break that and then you basically think you can really do anything.
Yeah. Do you have a contingency plan or some kind of a safety net if all of a sudden you go, oh, crap?
I think that we basically started this expecting that we weren't going to allow ourselves to go back to that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And we were going to try to do anything possible to keep it going. But we also really loved Maui, and that could also be an option for us to go back and kind of.
I think if we're going to have a place that we're going to settle down, like, okay, we can't do this anymore. There's not one place in the mainland that we kind of both agree on in terms of weather. Like, Brock hates the cold, and I'd like to experience a little bit of snow once in a while. Mm-hmm. But like, that is we just butt heads on that. So Hawaii just happened to be something that, all right, we can both agree on it. And I can get a job there whenever I want, just from working there so long. So I have a job if I want it. So I think if for some reason we can't do this anymore, I guess we're going to have to go back to Maui.
Oh, the struggles.
Terrible place.
Could you see yourself, maybe finding, you just land in a country that you go, wow, this place really resonates with us, and why not just stay here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've felt that way about Costa Rica already. We could stay here for a very long time. But we also have that pull of, like needing to see new places. So, and that's the whole point of why we're doing this, is seeing as many places as we can, acquiring as many experiences as we can, meeting as many people as we can. And then maybe when we get tired of doing that, then we can decide, yeah, this one place is like perfect for us for a long time.
So how long does your visa stay active in Costa Rica? How long can you stay there?
So technically it's only 90 days, but we're kind of working our way around that. So basically when we went to the airport, actually coming to Costa Rica, moving here, we didn't have a flight, and we can't let you on the plane unless you show us a flight. So we're like, oh my God. So we booked a quick little, like the cheapest flight we could find to Florida, and we had to show them. And then we just canceled that like as soon as we got to Costa Rica.
Just a Southwest flight, just because it's refundable.
Okay.
Our plan is the 90 days is over at the end of March, but we're going to go over to Chile for about a month and see Patagonia, Easter Island. And then I have some friends in Santiago that we're kind of going to use as a base station. And then after that, we're probably going to come back for, I don't know, maybe another 90 days.
So we come up with a new game plan.
Right. Now, you mentioned a lot of places in South America. Is that the main area that you have the most curiosity about at this point, or can you see yourself traveling in the future, to the other continents?
Yeah, I think we really want to see more of Europe.
We just met some crazy Brits here.
Yeah.
And we actually became really good friends with them. So they're like, anytime you're in Europe, let us know and we're all going to do a trip together. So, I mean, that's one of our big drivers for going to see more of Europe.
But it we're very open-ended with how we're doing this. And that's a good example of why we can't really stick to any hard plans, is because you may meet people on the way and then they're like, hey, come visit us over here, or come with us over there. So we want to have that flexibility and just kind of go wherever the opportunity is at that moment in time.
We'll talk a little bit about your selling everything, because I know one of the things that I changed in my life was this need to buy things. I have a good sized house, and I'm going out and I'm buying a dining room table, and then I'm finally buying some furniture for the front room. And I'm every time I buy something, I look at it and I go, okay, well, I have it now. It's not really fulfilling me, but it's here. At least I don't live in an empty house. But then when I shifted and started traveling and seeing things, it's like, oh, well, now this is great. I mean, I don't really bring anything home with me other than memories, but, and photographs, but it feels so much more fulfilling. But I still look at all this house full of furniture and I go, how would I ever drop all of this stuff and hit the road? What was that like for you guys?
I think it was kind of hard, I think mostly for me, just because we just got a new place together, where we just decorated everything. Everything was new because it was our new life together. And so everything that we had bought was less than a year old. And I was having a hard time detaching. So I was like, no, this is my first couch. No, just little things. But honestly, why do I have an attachment to a couch? Why do I have an attachment to this lamp? It makes no sense. But I think that was the hardest part, was just realizing, why do I need this? Why do we need 2 TVs? We have excess of everything. And I think that's some of the things that we're taught growing up, get a big house and try to fill it up. And why do we have to do that?
Yeah, it doesn't really make much sense to us in general, really.
So I think once we were able to, I guess, just realize what the bare necessities are. We have clothes on our back, we have some shoes. What else do we need? I'm not going to be able to take this couch to Costa Rica with me, just little things like that, I guess, just coming to terms with the fact that, we don't have to go with what society kind of teaches us. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that we've learned, is we're different from other people and we don't have to follow the same rules. So let's just do what makes us happy.
Well, and I think as you travel more and more, you come, like you said, you come back with these new experiences, new understandings of wherever you go, the people, the culture, the environment. And then you come back to your home and you're sitting in there and you see your things, and it just doesn't, the comparison isn't the same anymore. It's like you're thinking more about buying that next flight than like the next thing you're going to put in your house. And that's just what happened with me over time. Was I just thought less and less of items and more of like, where am I going to go next? What am I going to experience next?
So when you're taking your possessions around that you have now, you mention it as a suitcase. I'm thinking you at least have 2 suitcases, right?
So I have a carry-on and a backpack. And And
I have like a 65-liter Osprey pack and like a 45-liter backpack. So I basically do the double backpack carry with the 65 on my back and then the 45 on my chest.
And then my backpack, when I can't, I'm just too tired to carry my stuff. He's my mule.
But I mean, we already, all right, just being here a little over a month, we feel like we have too much stuff.
Like we've actually gotten rid of some of our stuff since we've been here. Like just the stuff we are carrying around. Like we had this soccer ball when our friends came. So we all kind of came and did a big trip, and our friends left and we had the soccer ball still. And Brock was just being a hoarder, just carrying it around. It was just such a pain in the ass. And then finally we were on one of the buses, and this little boy, I just happened to sit next to him, and he was just laying his head on my shoulder and just smiling at me. He was just the cutest thing. And we just started talking to him, and Brock said, "Hey, do you have a soccer ball?" And he's like, "No." And Brock's like, "Okay, well, do you want a soccer ball?" And he said, "Yeah." It was just, his like face just lit up just from, just a soccer ball, just things that you kind of just take for granted. And he was just so happy. And that was really nice to be able to do that for someone. And then I went through my stuff and I was like, I have not worn this clothes yet since I've been here. And I thought I would. And so I just got a bunch and I just went and dropped it off at one of the churches. I assume that they'll be able to pass it out to some people that might need it.
I just think as we progress in our travels, we gain a better understanding of what we really need, what we prefer to have, and like what we really don't need.
Yeah.
So I think maybe in a couple months we'll have maybe 25% less stuff. I think it's just going to keep getting smaller and smaller as time goes on.
Well, I can promise you, when I was younger, I used to have this thing where, not only was I a serial job jumper, but I was a town jumper as well. I moved from North Carolina up to Philadelphia, and then I moved out to Texas. And in all of these moves, and even when I lived in North Carolina, I moved 4 or 5 times. I soon realized that I kept getting rid of things because it is a hassle to have to move that stuff around. And then what you do is, like, every time you're packing those boxes, you're going, man, I'd like to pack a few less boxes next time. What can I get rid of? So
exactly.
Yeah. What happened over time was that I just got to a point where I had an optimized collection of stuff. It was like a perfect collection of just enough for me to be able to move it from place to place, nothing I don't need. And so maybe that's how it's going to work out for you guys.
Especially with the climate we've been in. I mean, we just wear shorts and a t-shirt, or a swimsuit and a shirt.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're wearing the same 3 or 4 items all the time.
I was going to say, this is the advantage for you guys too, that you're when you're staying in one place, you could go through a season or 2 with the same kind of clothes. And whereas, like, when I went to Hawaii, but I flew out of here and it's 40 degrees, and then there it's 70 degrees, and then I go to Las Vegas and it's 40 and 50 degrees again. I mean, your suitcase becomes bigger out of necessity just because of all of the changes in temperatures and stuff.
Definitely. And the only reason why we have 2 bags apiece is because we have some cold weather items, for like when we go to Patagonia. But right now we're not using any of that.
Yeah. So it's kind of just the space that we could have, but like we can't get rid of our winter stuff. We just have to lug it around everywhere.
Yeah, that's Patagonia should be awesome. What I'm trying to figure out is Easter Island. How do you go about getting to Easter? I'd love to go to Easter Island, but it's very isolated.
So like the best city to fly from is Santiago.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a 5.5 hour flight. And we haven't even booked our flight to Santiago yet, but I was every other day looking at flights from Santiago to Easter Island, and they usually range from like 800 to over 1,000 round trip just from Santiago. And all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, one morning I found it for $275 round trip a piece.
Oh, wow.
And as soon as she woke up, I was like, we have to buy this now or else we're not going to be able to go. So I booked the flight. We have that set. We just have to find our way to Santiago. And then the very next day, I just looked out of curiosity, and that same flight jumped to about $800 or $900.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Timing is everything.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you guys do in your free time? Are you kind of adventurers? You like doing sightseeing, or you like to try food, or is it just meeting people? What's your thing that you get the most out of your travels?
I think all of the above. Just like being deep in the culture, eating local food, talking with local people. We like to hike, and Ilene's a pretty good surfer. I'm terrible, but surfing's a big thing here.
I think so. I mean, like right now, after we're done here, we're going to meet our Airbnb hosts at one of the restaurants and buy them a couple of beers, and while we watch the Costa Rica game together. Just being a part of, like they welcome you like their family. Like we've hung out with our other Airbnb hosts. He made us dinner and he made us breakfast and he took us out surfing. Like it's just, people here are just so, like in the US, I don't think I've ever met an Airbnb host, honestly.
Huh.
But I just thought of that. But here we've met all of them, and they're all so welcoming. And just the other one that we just stayed at, that we just left from, she owned a restaurant, and she said, hey, do you see those kayaks in the front? They're yours if you want to go out. So we just had a free kayak.
Huh.
The last morning we just took those out in the bay and for maybe an hour and a half and kayaked until we had to move on to the next town. So I think like as we go places, we don't really have any expectations of what we plan on doing. We just kind of get there and then see what the thing to do is there. And then, as people suggest things, we kind of we've become yes people. We just say yes to almost everything.
That's fun. Yeah. So talk about then, how do you've talked about Airbnbs. Is that how you normally travel about? What are the other things you do to kind of keep your costs down?
I've basically been using Airbnb, Booking.com, just kind of like seeing what's out there. And we generally stay below $50 a night as far as like our budget
But
goes.
it's nice here. Like you can find nice rooms for $20 a night.
Like a $50 Airbnb in San Francisco would probably be like laying on the grass in a backyard or something. But here, like you get, your own cabin with a bathroom and sometimes AC, and it's just like the place that we just stayed at. It was $40, and we had this unbelievable view of the bay, probably one of the best views in the town, and it's just insane the quality you get for the price. And then like traveling around, bus tickets we've never paid more than like $5 for a bus ticket for like a 3 or 4 hour journey.
Tomorrow tomorrow we have to make our way back up to Monteverde, which is 12 hours.
Probably 12, 14 hours.
12, 14 hours. And so you could take a taxi and it'll be over
probably $300.
$300 for a taxi. Yeah. Or like you could rent a car for like $130 probably, but we're going to take a bus for $5, and it's going to take $10, literally all day. But I mean, that's how much money that you're saving just there. And I mean, it'll be nice to just look at the city, and it's so fun, like just riding with the locals and just, this is how they travel. So why can't we travel like this,
Exactly.
It's funny because I complain about Greyhound endlessly. Like I've ridden on Greyhound a couple of times, and I go, okay, these people are so disorganized. But I think your mindset changes, as you say, when you're in another country, and you can kind of accept things that are harder to accept here in the U.S.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's okay for them. Like, this is how they travel. So what makes me better? Like, why should I travel on a bus with air conditioning? You know, like, they don't do it, and it's just life for them. So we're just trying to be a part of the culture. And if they're doing it, we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, because at any one phase in the trip, we do something out of the box of the norm here. We kind of disconnect from the whole point of why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. So I hear a bird behind you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, at about 5 a.m. every morning, all the birds go nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of nice just to hear the birds. And a lot of the other towns that we've been in, there've just been howler monkeys, just ooh, 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 at 4 in the morning. It sounds so scary, and they wake you up and keep you awake pretty much starting at 4 a.m. So it's so nice that we're just hearing a bird.
So you have to tell me, because you lived in Maui for a while. I was in an Airbnb on the Big Island of Hawaii. I've never seen so much poultry walking around the roads.
The chickens. Yeah.
Wild chickens.
Yeah.
And they're protected. It's so funny. No one just gets them and cooks them. They're just hanging around. They're just like...
It's almost like an indigenous bird.
It's crazy because I in the morning, luckily the Airbnb host had posted that there are these frogs that will make a really loud noise all night, and she was giving all of these different ways that you could kind of cover up the noise. She left earplugs. She had a big fan that you could put on that would drown the noise out. But the roosters, there were 12 roosters over in this cage pen right next to me, and right outside my window. And luckily I was still on East Coast time, so I was waking up at like 4 in the morning every morning, so I was getting up before the roosters. But man, once they started going...
Yeah, they don't shut up.
Yeah, there are plenty of chickens and roosters here as well.
Yeah, it's so weird, because that's where we just left from Maui, and we thought that was so weird, and then we came here, and it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, well, you never have to worry about finding food, right? It's all over the place.
Yeah, and then we're the place we're at right now. We're throwing our like organic compost just like on the side of the house, and then these chickens come up and eat the scraps.
Oh wow. So have you ever run into, I mean, it sounds like, although you say you don't do a lot of planning, it sounds like you at least know where you're sleeping the next night.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of the times we've just been booking the Airbnb.
Day before.
Yeah, the day before.
But I mean, there's so much availability here that it's almost impossible not to find a place. So that's kind of luxury in itself, is that we can be really easygoing with where we're going to stay the next day. Just we don't have to worry about the planning phase.
So how does that work with a couple figuring out where to go next? Is it much easier because there's just nobody knows what the next place is going to be like, so it's just easy to agree? Or you guys ever have like a no, I'd really rather go there or here kind of a discussion?
I feel like, honestly, I just don't even try, because I have no idea where I am. Like, I know that we're at the southern tip because Brock told me a million times we're at the southern tip. Like, it's just so funny that he maps for a living, because I am so directionally challenged. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I would fear for my life if I gave her the reins on that. Yeah,
we've talked about maybe me trying to plan and be in charge of everything, and I just feel like I would book things way off, like the Airbnb in a completely different town that we're in, and just I'm fine with him taking the reins, and it's so weird because like I like to be in control. I like to know where we're going, what we're doing, where we're staying. That's the type of person I am, and since I've been here, it's just so nice to just not have to worry about it, and just, all right, I'm gonna get on a bus tomorrow for 12 hours, I guess that's fine.
I think we're always like on the same page of what we want to accomplish in the next place, like things we want to do, what we want to see. But I'm basically 100% in control of like what's next.
Like, I mean, he knows exactly what I'd like to do and what I probably wouldn't like to do, which isn't, I guess, very much. So it's kind of, we have so many options. So I kind of just trust him just because he likes to do research about the places that we're going to go and, you know, things that we should see. So it's kind of nice to not have to worry about that. So if he likes to do it, then that's on him.
And plus you're okay with doing nothing all day. So
yeah, like I could seriously just watch my shows online.
There you go. We were talking before we started the interview about how when you didn't have Wi-Fi and then you got to a place where you had really good Wi-Fi, it's like hoard all of your shows, get them all downloaded as quickly as possible. Yeah.
I think that's one of the conflicts we have here is that I've kind of detached from everything. Like I don't watch any shows. I don't watch the news, or I don't keep track of the news in the U.S.
But I need to know what's going on with my housewives this week.
Yeah.
So we're always butting heads on that.
Yeah. But you stay connected through social media at all, or how do you keep in touch with your family and your friends?
Yeah, so both of our families, so we have a group chat with his family, his parents, and then we have a group chat with my family. So they've all downloaded WhatsApp, so it helps us a lot here. And so we can just do video calls and we'll do like Marco Polos and stuff. So I feel like we talk to them a lot.
Send pictures. Yeah, I send my parents just a lot of pictures with no text, just so they know that we're on to our next place and what it looks like and all that.
Right. They know you're still alive. They always want to know you're doing okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I think
their worry.
I think the thing with both of our families, they just kind of got to realize, okay, I mean, this is Brock and Ilene. This is what they do now. You know, we're not living the traditional lifestyle. And I mean, of course, they'd love for us to be home with them as much as they can, but they kind of have come to terms with the fact that this is what we want for our lives. And they're proud of us, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to have that support. Absolutely. So if somebody's wanting to get started and do this, what little nuggets of wisdom would you give to somebody who says, yes, I'm ready to detach from my normal, everyday lifestyle and get out there and start to travel?
I would say first, you just have to drop all expectation of what you had in your previous life. Nothing is really going to be the same again, and that's the beauty of it. As far as if they need to sell things, I think you kind of just have to detach from the hope that you're going to get a certain amount of money out of stuff. It's more about like getting rid of it in time, as opposed to like how much money you're going to get out of it.
I think, just like he said, you just kind of have to go in with different expectations. What you're used to in the US or wherever you're from is going to be completely different than here. Like in Phoenix, Brock and I would get in huge arguments because Brock in 120 degrees outside would love the air condition at 78. And our fight was about air conditioning. That was the biggest argument. And because I need to be cool all the time. And here, like literally right now, I'm just sweating. And I'm okay with that. And it's so weird just to have to switch your mindset of, whatever the locals do here, that's what you should be okay with, and you shouldn't have any expectations. And just really, you really have to just put yourself in their culture and really think like, if you're actually doing this, not a lot of people are going to get to do this. So you really just have to think to yourself and just stop and just be like, wow, this is my life right now. I'm able to do this, and just be grateful and just enjoy every second that you can of it, no matter how hot you are.
And I mean, we have low points. It's not, beautiful all the time.
No.
We have our struggles, and we have our moments where maybe a little doubt creeps in of like, what are we doing? Maybe we should like go somewhere else, or like go back to Hawaii or something. But then like you get through those rough times, and then another reward comes your way in the travel, and it makes it all worth it in the end.
And I think like in the time that we're living in now with social media, obviously people aren't posting, you know, the negative parts of the trips. You just see all these people just living the life and just so happy, and you know, these girls in bikinis are just, you know, having the best time. But that's not true at all. Like there's a huge story behind that, you know. Like I just posted a picture, some pictures that we had, but the stories that were behind us getting there to get that picture is just, you know, way off. And obviously I'm not going to have time to explain everything, and I don't know if anybody really cares, but it's just, you just really have to think that it's not all what it's, you know, looks like.
When you also have to get rid of any comfort zone you used to have, because if you're just stuck in a box as you're traveling, like it defeats the entire purpose of why you're doing it.
Well, I think you guys probably have grown to appreciate, like I do, that some of the fun part of travel mishaps are that they teach you so much about yourself and about how you handle things, and that you can overcome these particular obstacles.
Exactly. I mean, I think when we'd have fights, you know, when we lived in Phoenix, there were small issues that would cause a conflict over 2-3 days. But as we're traveling together, like we don't have that kind of time. If we're upset with each other for 2 or 3 days, we kind of like miss out on things that we want to do those days. So we've really learned how to get over. And
when he says we, he means me.
So this is funny because I always hear people joking about first world problems, but in reality, you guys have seen the difference between first world and third world problems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if she's having a first world problem, I fully remind her that it is a first world problem, and by tomorrow she won't even remember the first world problem.
And wait till you get back to the first world, because all of a sudden those problems will not be as pressing as they used to be, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So where can people keep up with your adventures while you're traveling along?
So our Instagram pages, mine is at Ilene Left, ILENE
And mine is at Batchness, BATCHNESS.
And we're actually starting a blog. Our family kind of just urged us into doing it, just because they thought like, hey, you guys are living a kind of a crazy life. And we didn't think so. I mean, yeah, I guess if you say it out loud, we are, but to us, it's just kind of, you know, what we're doing with our lives. And they said, you know, I think a lot of people would really want to know how you're doing these trips for so cheaply, you know, and they want to see your adventures. And I think that it would be really cool if you guys wrote it. So we kind of talked about it, and we came to the agreement like, yeah, you know what? And if anything, this is going to be a good way to just document our life this year, you know, and that would be just really cool to be able to go to a website and see that. And one of the things we're going to be focusing on is just travel tips, just how we get, like, just how we talked about, we found that flight to Easter Island for how many, like $250 or $270 or something. Yeah. And just, you know, there's so many trips that we've taken for way inexpensive than you would think. Like one time we took a trip to Norway from Houston for less than it was to go to Phoenix from Houston.
Oh, wow.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's deals out there. You just need to learn how to do it. And we've kind of learned how to do it, and we're getting better at it, and we've made mistakes, but that's exactly what we want to include in the blog. And then we want to focus a lot on environmental conservation, because living in Hawaii, you know, is completely different than living in Phoenix, where we didn't really know about these things. You know, we didn't know about sea life. We didn't know about the pollution in the oceans until we got to Maui, and we're seeing these things and seeing the way that they're handling the situation. And even being here in Costa Rica, there are laws here to really protect the animals and to protect the oceans are just amazing. And we want to be able to write about that. And you don't have to move to Costa Rica. That's one thing we wanted to emphasize. You don't have to live by the ocean to help out. There are things that you can do at home that can help. And, it's all of our job to save the planet and make sure it stays beautiful.
And you can see probably starting a week from now that we'll have that site up. It'll be called digitaldrifters.net.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll post all of the links and everything to our show notes page as well, so everybody will be able to go out to travelfuelslife.com/podcasts and look for this episode, and we should have the links out there as well. And if you guys have anything else going on, always pass those links over to me, and I'll add them to the page as well. And I thank you guys so much for, first of all, reaching out to me through email and introducing yourselves, and then introducing your lives, because they're absolutely fascinating. And it's I think it's good for people. I mean, the whole idea of my show is to introduce people to concepts and get them thinking, how can they travel more and what ways can they travel? And we hear a lot about the digital nomads and the people who are trying to figure out how to live life in other countries as expats and so on and so forth. So it's good to hear from people who are doing that, and I appreciate you guys giving me so much of your time.
Well, we're happy to talk about it, and thanks for your time, Drew.
Yeah, it was great to meet you.
And that closes out another week of Travel Fuels Life. And make sure to head to the show notes page of travelfuelslife.com/podcasts for episode number 12. And there you're going to find the links to Ilene and Brock's Instagrams, as well as their website, digitaldrifters.net. And if you're thinking of a nomadic lifestyle yourself and you need to find ways to optimize your travel packing, head to travelfuelslife.com/shop, where you can find some of my favorite travel tools, including that sturdy carry-on bag I like to use to go see the world and avoid baggage fees. It's an awesome bag. It's been all around the world, and it is holding up just fine. So that site is an Amazon shop, and by buying through there, you're going to get a great way to show your appreciation for the guests that I'm bringing on the show. And I do get a small commission for the sales, but do also pay the same low price that you normally pay through Amazon, so it is a win-win. I'd really appreciate it, and thank you for being a loyal listener. And until next time, have a great week, safe travels, and thanks for listening to Travel Fuels Life.